Trust Me, You Can Relate. I'm Lisa Johnson Smith, and it is still Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's why today's guest is my friend Ananda Lewis. She has graced our television sets for, I guess, decades now, right?
Yeah.
With her beautiful face. And she is also a fellow breast cancer survivor, and she's also BET family, former host of Teen Summit. Woo-hoo. I want to thank you for being here, Ananda.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. It's always lovely to see you. Miss paved the way for me.
Please stop. For real. Well, let's get right into it. I want to talk about your decision to treat your breast cancer holistically. But first, how long ago were you diagnosed?
They gave me the news January of 2019. January will be 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. Wow. So you made this decision, and tell me about it. Tell me your story.
You know, my mom fought breast cancer 13 or so years ago now. My son's 10. Yeah, it's about 13 or 14 years ago. And that was the first time, not the first person, but the first time I walked through the process of conventional therapy with somebody, right? Had heard about it, had friends' moms go through it, but I wasn't right there watching it and really seeing kind of inside baseball of it, right? And one of the things that stands out to me was being in the chemo room with my mom. And she did full chemo. She lost her left breast, so full mastectomy one side. She didn't have to do the radiation. I think she was able to skip that, but she did, you know, pretty much, except for radiation, the full cycle. And when I was in that chemo room with her, having done the first time, I did a bit of research on it and wanting to give her alternatives and just different things to do, which I'll stop there and back up. Ever since I was, oh gosh, a little girl. I mean, my grandma was always just making stuff for us to take, right? I really didn't grow up going to the doctor every time we were sick. We went to the kitchen every time we were sick. My grandma was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. She was one of the survivors of the Tulsa massacre. She grew up, having hands-on. She was a Renaissance woman. She knew how to sew and do woodwork, right? She knew how to raise and kill her own food. She knew how to grow her own food. And she wasn't necessarily an herbalist or a naturalist, but her generation of people just understood the body and how nature functioned and how things worked better because they were constantly in it doing it, right? Mm-hmm. If you know how to grow things from the ground, you have a sense of how that process works. And to me, the way the body works is you know, very similar to how plants and other living organic matter on the planet, which is all these bodies we live in are, how they work. So I didn't grow up in a household. My grandmother predominantly raised me in the formative years anyway. I didn't grow up running to the doctor. Mm-hmm. I grew up with her figuring it out, fixing it. Yes, she gave us Robitussin every now and then, right? But she also had us gargle with garlic water and different things that came from her yard or that came from her kitchen. And so my point of reference really has never seated firmly on Western medicine and their approach to things. So it wasn't necessarily for me a rejection of conventional. It was just a continuing on of the path I already was on from being little. And then in high school, I discovered Layla O Africa and Queen Afua and all these different African Americans and people who look like me who were saying, here's what works for our body. Like, eat like this, take this. I considered myself an herbalist in high school. I had a whole shelf full of like herbs to deal with things that would happen to my body. When I got sick with a cold, I would take echinacea, you know, way before anybody else was doing that or heard about it. Golden seal was one of my common herbs. So I had been into herbs for a really long time and had just this innate understanding of the body's ability to heal itself if you give it and do the right things, right? So cut back to my mom's in the chemo room. I had done some research on breast cancer and cancer in general when she was diagnosed and wanting to help her kind of maneuver in a different way, at least have some supportive things to do, you know, at the same time. And one of the main pieces of information I came across that I remember kind of like that bell going off in my head was that sugar feeds cancer, right? This is something that the medical industry knew. It was published even back then, where the internet wasn't as easy to access or as much information available. That was still one of the first things I came across. Sugar feeds cancer. What I've come to understand is lots of things feed cancer, but sugar is its most desired food source, right? So that is what it wants to eat. Now it will figure out how to eat other things, but it can't do that as easily, which is why the ketogenic diet is so effective for keeping it at bay. And in some cases, reversing it, because you are removing its main food source, forcing it to conform to something else. And it's not, your other cells can do that easily. They can conform to burning fat. Cancer cells don't do that as readily. So I understood that going in, and in her chemo room, they would come around with snacks that were grape juice, granola bars, candy bars. There was actual Snickers bar on that tray. And it struck me that the individual people, the doctors, the nurses, the staff that were running this place, right, are good people. They believe what they're doing. They're educated. They believe that this is the right way. And yet they're giving her exactly the things she should be avoiding. That is an absolute contradiction to the medicine they're claiming is going to fix her. And so it was very obvious to me that there is good information. There is solid knowledge and understanding. There are great people in conventional that really want to help fix this. And they're not looking at the full picture. That was my opinion. They're not looking at the full picture. They're not accepting all of the information. I think both sides of the aisle, both conventional and alternative, quote unquote, the best description I have for it, because that's what we all call it. But I think it's the reverse. I think going with your body is what should be the normal way. And the alternative way would be doing this thing that, basically poisons you half to death. You hope to survive. If you catch it early enough, you have better chances of surviving, but isn't, to me, the most ideal way to function with your body. You don't damage more things to fix more things, in my mind, right? I've learned a lot since then, but this was my thinking. So that told me, we got to be our own advocates and our own informants in terms of what to do, because that's one kind of slice of the pie, right? Conventional. But there are all these other slices that, as an individual going through it, which my mom was that individual at that time, I wanted her to be able to consider and look at the entire pie and not just the one sliver she was being offered because her insurance covered her, because conventional said so, or because her doctor said so. None of that should, in my opinion, should have trumped her decision for herself. And so cut to 13 years later, and it was kind of my turn to go through it, which wasn't a surprise because, you're the probability of you having it, if your mother and another family member, and I had multiple family members that have dealt with it. I wasn't surprised. I was like, wow, really? The timing, but I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh.
But even with you having such a great organic diet all these years, that still didn't surprise you?
I really didn't have a great organic diet all these years. I've had a great organic diet since being diagnosed. When you don't know there's something wrong, here's my thing, right? Not the general you, but I'll say myself. Because I didn't know something was going wrong in my body, I assumed it wasn't. And when you assume nothing's wrong, you figure you can do whatever you want. Right. And I was definitely a young woman who didn't believe it would happen to me. Like we all have, I think up until 30, you feel pretty invincible and like, ain't nothing gonna happen. And I'll bounce back and whatever. Look at all this crazy stuff I've done. And I'm still here. Like, crazy ideas. Right. And you learn as you grow. So I really felt like that. I smoked for almost 12 years, cigarettes. I was one of those people who would hide in the back. I smoked all through my TV career. Most people didn't know that. There may have been 3 people in my life that knew I smoked. And I guess I thought I hid it, but now as a non-smoker, I smell smokers. I'd be like, you really think that mouthwash and that perfume covering something? So that was me. And now I look back and say, I feel stupid because I'm like, probably everybody knew I smoked because none of that works. But at the time, I was hiding in the back. I was really addicted. I had an actual problem with cigarettes, full on. And I couldn't wake up and go to work without a cigarette and coffee.
How'd you quit?
Hypnosis. Took me one time after, 12 years of smoking. It took me one time 15 years ago and I was done. Never had a cigarette since. And I get nauseous, literally almost to the point of throwing up now when I smell cigarette smoke. I had him do that specifically to program my brain to reject it physically so that I had a real problem. I tried cold turkey quitting like 5 times. I would buy a pack, take one out, throw it away, thinking wasting money would help me quit, right? But nothing worked until hypnotherapy.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had done things to my body that I knew weren't good for me, but I was invincible, right? It wasn't going to happen to me. I didn't, and I'm not saying that the smoking led to the cancer. Most people will tell you in the profession that deals with cancer, whether it's an oncologist or a breast surgeon or whatever, they'll tell you, we don't know why this happened.
Right.
Almost every doctor I've dealt with says, we don't know why this happened. Even the alternative, what's the word? It's not alternative, but integrative, right? So you're kind of on the fence, doing a little bit of each side, right? Mm-hmm. Even those doctors were like, I mean, we don't know what causes it. And it's different in each body.
Right.
The causes, the evolution of it, all of that is different. So it was really important for me, and this was later in the journey, to figure out why my body malfunctioned. Mm-hmm. And when I learned, as well as you can, I suppose, with all the testing and the things, the kind of sleuth work that you do, it had nothing to do with cigarettes. I had done a lot of fasting, detoxing, a lot of just dieting and trying to get my body back together after my son. And I mean, about 2 years of it, I would go on various fasts. I would have all these, things. I would take supplements. And when I went to Arizona and finally got this integrative treatment that I got, I guess it's almost been a year now since I've been back last year. One of the things that came up in my testing was really high amounts of acrylamide. Now, that's a chemical that is a carcinogen. It's a proven carcinogen. It doesn't belong in your body, but we find it in our body in high amounts. We live in a way more toxic environment than ever before. Our grandparents' bodies never had to deal with the kind of chemical load that we have to deal with, toxic chemical load. And so I definitely believe and know from the testing that had to have something to do with why my body malfunctioned. But when you look at it, and you've probably learned this from going through your own process, there are multiple reasons, right? And there's so many different things that go wrong. And in my perspective, it was kind of like a perfect storm. I was in a really stressful relationship. Stress is one of the worst things you can expose yourself to for a prolonged amount of time. And our relationships, especially as women, put us through so much stress that that we don't even realize the complete ruining that it's doing to our bodies. When you have that pit of your stomach sore and hurting all the time because you suspect this, or y'all in a fight about that, or you don't know what this fool do, like all of that craziness that we deal with and we go through with our girlfriends, and we go through with our aunties and our sisters, all of that takes its toll on our bodies.
Right.
And so I was dealing with that like everybody else. I was also eating horribly at the time. I used breastfeeding as a reason to have 4 donuts a day. I mean, I really got off track with my eating, and pregnancy will do that to you if you're not careful. I was happy during my pregnancy, but once I had my baby, I was like, cool, I can eat whatever. I don't even know why I thought that. But I wasn't doing the best I could do. Again, I had smoked for all those years. And even though I'd quit way before I got pregnant, that was still in my system until I got it out. There's an accumulative effect. I was also exposed to the gas of the Porter Ranch gas leak. It was the worst gas leak in US history. We lived through that for 4 months before they got us out of there. And this breast cancer was found just about 9-10 months after that. So I think there were a lot of things that contributed to why my body experienced breast cancer. And I say it that way specifically because I don't own cancer. I'm not allowing it to be something I have. I don't want that. That ain't no gift. That is just something that my body is experiencing right now. And I believe you can change the course of, right? It's a process that started in my body that can be shifted. So that's kind of some of how I ended up doing the alternative. It has been, and my mom, her process through it was so grueling, the conventional route, that when, I don't know how much of her business I should be telling, but she didn't want to go through it again and went a completely different route without really having another problem. So I say all that to say that I know people who have done it and never want to do it again and wish they hadn't. And I also know that once you've done conventional, doing alternative, right, a more holistic approach, as you said, I like language, is much more difficult because now your body is damaged, whether that's cut up or radiated or chemoed, which is poison that was used on, in wars. And a valuable poison if used in the right way, but a very destructive poison if not. And I don't believe that the general conventional, there are people out there doing it in the very specific way, but they're few and far between, hard to find, and many insurance doesn't, they just don't cover it. But the general conventional is doing the same thing they've been doing for 50 years, without much difference in efficacy. And, you know, the research I did into that, none of this was done, you know, blindly reaching in the dark. I just didn't feel good about trusting my life with it. I was more comfortable trusting my life with my own choices and taking my own path. So, you know, we'll see how that turns out. Either way, when you do what you know is right for you, you can live with whatever the consequences of that are.
Talk to me about what that specific treatment is. What does that entail?
For me in the beginning, because I didn't have a lot of guidance from a community, or I should say a clinic. When I went to Arizona, it was an actual clinic that they, you know, had a regimented thing they do. It's kind of proven. They know what it is. They're testing you all the time. It's very medically sound. That's what I'll say.
So these are doctors or these?
Oh, actual, yeah, doctors. In Arizona, I consider Arizona like the wild, wild west for all treatments, but definitely for cancer treatments. They don't have the same kind of limitations on what you can do that California does, and other states too. There were a lot of people there from other states. And so I'm assuming, and knowing from talking to them, they had similar limitations. I don't know how specific like I do in California, but most places you can't get the kind of stuff they were doing. And that kind of stuff is off-label use of certain prescription medicines and alternative things that aren't necessarily proven by double-blind studies and all these things that take millions of dollars to accomplish, right? To me, just because it doesn't have that kind of backing doesn't mean it doesn't work. And one of the most important things was the testing that told me what my body needed.
What kind of testing? What kind of testing did you go through? Like, was it blood tests, or was it, what type of testing?
Oh my God, they took like, this blood every week in my arm. It was like, well, I had a port that made things a lot easier, but they still would pull blood. You know, if they needed, other people would pull blood from my arms. I went to so many different places.
The port was for an infusion of sorts, or?
Yeah, and I did micro chemo. That's about 1/10 of what you would get in conventional. That's insulin potentiated and genetically targeted. So the testing, part of it was genetic testing, not of me to see if there's a genetic match or a genetic link toward myself and, you know, my mom, but to like the actual cancer cells in the tumor, to make sure that the chemo that you're getting will kill that cancer. So they actually pull the cancer cells, test on all these different chemos, which ones are going to work, and give you this list. I mean, it's like a 95-page report. They give you this list that says this chemo will work at 90% efficacy or 100% efficacy or 80%, and you take the top 3 and you cycle between those.
And so that's why you do micro. That's why you can do micro, because you don't have to cover all your bases, because it's very targeted. Okay, I got you.
Very targeted. And the insulin drops the insulin, again, I'm not a doctor, but my understanding of how the insulin potentiation works is that, again, that fundamental truth of cancer, that it loves sugar. That's its primary desired fuel.
I feel so guilty, because I have to say that is my hardest thing I gave it up for so many times. I mean, so many times. And it's like, when I'm stressed, it's my go-to. And I know better. I said I was going to get a tattoo that said, like, you know, sugar in a circle with the big red thing. Like, because I know better. And it's not until after I eat it that I'm like, oh shoot,
why did I do that?
Why did I do that? You know,
I can actually feel the sugar in my body now hurting me. Because like you, I've been on and off. So I can feel it making my breast pulse. Like I've gotten so aware of my body over these last 2.5 years.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. And I'll know it. And, you know, sometimes I'll take this stuff that makes me bring it back up. Like, I just want it out of my system so badly. And to me, like,
what is that called?
What is I would tell people, because if I call it, I'll tell you later. I can't just say it out loud.
What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you can make yourself throw up too, but you can take stuff that actually makes you throw up.
Oh yeah.
I don't suggest it.
No,
I'm just saying,
throw up. Ugh, even if I'm sick.
I do too. But you know, with some of this stuff, the pros outweighing the cons. It's like the benefit outweighing the detriment. So micro chemo, that was super important. I think that went a long way to help kill off the cells and not the cancer cells and not kill my normal cells.
And that's for like what period of time? I
was in Arizona for 16 weeks. My treatment I was in Arizona actually for 18 weeks. My treatment was 16 weeks.
But
And
that treatment is done every day, like for an
every
hour?
three times a week.
3 times a week for how long?
I did it 20 times. So
And that's an infusion.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they drop your blood sugar. So the insulin potentiation requires you to drop your blood sugar. So you're being monitored, because that's very dangerous. Even though I was doing it to myself to try to do a 2-deoxy protocol, I was trying on my own. I would drop my blood sugar to like 38, 39, and then have to eat like 3 blackberries and, come back too. They did it while monitoring me, which is why this was a much safer way to go. I was doing dumb stuff on my own, but they dropped my insulin as well. I'm dropped my blood sugar as well till about, I think my lowest I ever hit was maybe 37.
And what's normal?
Oh, you got to be like 100, 75 or above. Like they were taking it really low. And the ideology behind that what the science says is that when you take the blood sugar that low, you're starving out the cancer for sugar. That's what it wants to eat. So they hide it in the sugar, and then the cancer goes, that's my sugar, and takes it all up and dies. Because you greedy, that's why your ass about to die. So it uses one of its traits against itself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so
but the normal cells aren't doing that.
Right, right. So that's okay. So you did this 3 times a week for what, an hour at a time, 2 hours at a time?
It would take about 4 or 5 hours, the whole process. Drop your blood sugar to get the insulin, to get, all of it, to wake you back up, to bring you back up. Not wake you up, I never really fell asleep, but to bring you back up and to make sure you're okay so you can go home. But every day, including the chemo days, I was doing probably 6 to 7 hours on the long days, 4 to 5 hours on the short days of other therapies. Now, these are
what are those
alternative, right? So I was doing, gosh, I have a list too. I did methylene blue. All of these things have been proven to affect cancer in some way. And all the different ways we talked about your body, the things that could break down that would cause cancer. There's all these different ways to get your body to start fighting it as well. I did immune boosters. So I did a PNK shot, which is some kind of immune system. I don't know all the details. I was just like, what is it? Okay, cool. And now I have to remember it because y'all know what you're doing. But I did those PNK shots in my arm. Those were at least twice a week. They were to boost my immune system so that my immune system would kick in and start to help fight the cancer cells off. And we had done testing to see what things were reducing my immune system, that the toxic chemicals in my body were among that list to get rid of some of those. I did chelation. I did
what is that?
Well, they chelate. It's like a combination of enzymes that will eat up the heavy metals in your blood. The best way I can describe it. Too? All infusion, yeah, all through the
infusions.
The apheresis. I had an apheresis port, so the one line stuck out and then it went to 2, because the apheresis is a process of cleaning your blood. And the way that works is they pull your blood out kind of pint by pint or however much. And while it's going out, it's cycling through this huge machine and getting clean. It's pulling out all the nasty stuff, including some cancer cells. And then it's coming back into your body through the other line of the port clean. And so you're I got that once every 2 weeks. We do a big apheresis, and that was grueling too. And my kidneys were hurting. So, I mean,
I can ask you, how did it feel after the first treatment that you mentioned, the micro chemo? How did you feel after each treatment?
Weak and a little out of it. That's why they would keep you in the room so long, to make sure you're okay. Because your blood sugar going that low is dangerous. I mean, just as a body, your body doesn't want to do that, right? And so coming back out of it, they would give you shakes and all these things to bring your blood sugar back up. But I was also needing to be in ketosis. That was another component of it. So they would, it was a very fine balance that we had to strike every single time. And I felt crazy, but I'm not someone who really has a huge problem with pain. I have a freakishly high tolerance for pain. I did a home birth. I have done a lot of really kind of nutso things to myself involving needles and trying to poke at the tumor and eat it away. I mean, I've done a lot of really out there stuff.
And before your treatment?
Yeah. Oh, I spent 1.5 years figuring it out on my own before I went to Arizona. So
girl, wait, you took a needle and did what?
So there's a hydrogen peroxide therapy theory. I was trying. And then I also really, I
What?
wanted to get on an intimate level with this tumor and know it.
There's
And
only one. You had
well,
two.
they found two areas, but I think they were the same tumor in, connected
Interconnected.
in two different ways. Yeah. So they were calling it two tumors, but really one of the PET scan shows that it was just one connected. But by the time I went to Arizona, it had gotten so big, I was wearing a pad on this side because the ratios were just so off. So it grew on me during the pandemic. I felt like I was doing really well. I was being monitored, having ultrasounds done every month, making sure things weren't spinning out of control. It had not grown at the rate I was told in the beginning it would grow based on all the original tests.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was, success to a certain extent. Listen, a tumor in your breast won't kill you. A tumor spreading to your liver or your brain or your bones, that'll kill you, right? The cancer cell spreading there. So that's why metastatic breast cancer is so much more dangerous, right? Because it spread somewhere else. But at the time, I was dealing with my breast and my limbs, and that was a localized issue. So I felt like it did.
Had it spread? Oh.
When they first found it, it was already there. So when they diagnosed me in the beginning, I was already a 3 because of the lymph involvement. And so I was doing the monitoring and doing what I felt was the right thing for me, which was, I did a 5-day water fast. I was doing all or raw organic. I cut out, sugar was the first thing to go, except that fruit and veggies are sugar. But there's so many different people out there, some of them, experts and have degrees and stuff that you would say, oh yeah, they really understand it. And some are just people who said they've done it for themselves and they're showing you how to do it. There's so many things out there. And I wanted to be careful because I know there's a lot of scamming out there too, right? Just preying on people who are desperate. Right. And I never felt desperate. I felt like, let me figure this out. Right.
So wait, as you felt the tumor growing to the point where you had to hide
COVID, but yeah.
I mean, wasn't that scary to you? Weren't you afraid as it was growing?
No, fear really has never entered the picture for me with it. I don't know why. I mean, maybe I got a problem, right? Maybe I should be afraid and I'm not, but fear isn't helpful. I've never understood fear to be a helpful thing.
Yeah.
And I was cutting people out of my life, people who were pretty close to me, when they projected their fear onto me, because that is, first of all, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of dying? That's what most of us are afraid of when we get scared of something like this, right? So I just had to look at it and go, I'm going to die. It's not going to be from this because I'm a make sure of that. But being afraid of something inevitable, it doesn't make sense to me. It's always like, well, am I going to live in fear and let that prevent me from figuring it out because I'm so afraid? Am I going to let fear cause me to make decisions that I don't believe are the best decisions for me and to do things that I think are outside of what are going to be what I want to live with and the body I want to live in? Like, what is fear, right?
So what was the reaction though when that tumor, when you saw it physically, you could physically see it growing?
I could feel it.
What you could feel it. What was your reaction? If it wasn't fear, what was it?
It was
do something about this.
Yes, there was more of a resolution toward getting bigger guns, more weapons, right? I had been fighting and pew, 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 and now I needed to, right? So that's when I started looking for a clinic and a more organized way to approach it. I'd been kind of just like, okay, what am I going to do next? Okay, this, okay, cool. Let me try this. Let me find someone who does this. Let me do this. And I'd been doing all those things. And I believe those things really helped. So like I was saying, the tumor won't kill you. When it spreads, you could die. There's still things you can do, but yeah, you're walking a really thin plank, right? When you play with it like that, once it's spread. Got it. And there are things that can happen along the way that cause it to start to turn and reverse. But when you try a non-conventional way, you have to really be diligent about doing those things. You have to really be on top of those things. The benefit of conventional, as I see it, is that you kind of get to feel like, okay, once I get through this crazy period of time, whatever it is, whatever you got to do, then I'm done with it. I've moved on. I can say that I'm no evidence of disease, which is the new terminology, right? They don't say you're cured. They say no evidence of disease, right? But that's a great thing to hear. But it's a false sense of security if you don't understand why your body started this process of cancer to begin with. I believe that the reason it comes back for so many people and specifically so many women, is that conventional is limiting themselves to just what they do, instead of looking at the broader understanding of how diet impacts cancer, of how stress impacts cancer, of how all these different things impacts it. So you go in thinking, okay, they're going to do this and I'm going to be fine. No, you have to do what you need to do to end up being fine. It's a process, no matter which way you choose to go down, what road, right? It's a process. And if you're not involved in the process on an intimate level of understanding your body, honoring your body, respecting your body's own ability to do things for itself, including healing, then you're missing the opportunity to take advantage of those things that you could be doing, even if you go the conventional route. And now more people in the conventional world are opening up to the idea that CBD is very helpful going through chemo. Fasting is very helpful going through chemo. Ketosis, being in ketosis, helps to minimize the effects of chemotherapy. And so they're starting to open up to it, but they haven't yet crossed the bridge to really understand the benefits, to spread the word more, to empower women to understand that there's more they can be doing than just receiving help, right? They are help themselves, and they are for themselves. And that part, I think, is lost on conventional right now.
Yeah. You said you weren't so happy with the results as you expected that you would be.
Of my first year and a half, when I was kind of just on my own winging it, like I said, diagnosed in January 2019. And so that full year went by. And as we hit January 2020, full year later, what happens to everybody? COVID.
Right.
All the alternative stuff I was doing, the vitamin C hyperbaric vitamin C IVs with hyperbarics, the different IVs I could get here, the the mistletoe extract. There's so many things, right? I was doing Rife therapy, which is frequency and light and sound. And we are energetic beings. So I believe frequency and energy can have an impact on us. So I was doing all these different things where
outside of the clinic.
This is right. Yeah. Well, the clinic hadn't even come up yet. Right. I was just doing all this on my own, piecing together things in California where you would think it's really open, but it's really limited. Right. So then COVID hit. And all of that stuff closed. And I was just back on my own with diet and exercise and whatever supplements I thought were effective and proved, some of the things proven effective. I was back on my own.
I'm sorry, did you ever consider conventional chemotherapy?
I did. I never considered doing it, but I listened to the doctors. I went to see an actual, one of the top oncologists in LA. I went through the process of understanding what they told, what they thought I should do. And then I decided that wasn't the right decision for me. So, but I did stick with the breast surgeon who I started with. Well, she was the second one, but I'm a horrible patient. I admit that up front. I'm questioning everything. I want you to listen, tell me, you ain't going through it. So you have to tell me why I should, all of those things. And so I stuck with her, and she was the one doing the ultrasounds to just help me, keep track of things. And things were going, I thought, really well. Because again, I think if you can keep that tumor at bay, that's half the battle, right? Because the spreading is the problem. A tumor in my breast wasn't going to kill me. I could live with that. I could live with that long term if I could keep it from moving. So that was my philosophy on it, and still is to a great extent. But then COVID happened, couldn't get that stuff, and things did start spinning out of control without my ability to do all the stuff that had been keeping things at bay. Then I woke up one morning, my body felt weird. I started having more pains in my breast. A friend of a friend had just died probably 2 days before this morning that this happened in my mind for me. And when they opened her up, they found cancer all through her abdomen. Nobody knew she had it. She didn't even know she had it, but as far as we know. But I understood that things could be happening inside of me in a different location that I wasn't aware of. Right. I knew that, but it became very real because it had been about 3 or 4 months that I couldn't get any of my treatments, and my body started feeling differently. So I was like, you know what? I have this child I need to be here for. I have myself I need to be here for. I have a lot of life still left to live. I want to see. And so I got to do something else. I have to go somewhere else because this COVID is not going to let things open back up for too long. So I started talking to a friend who dealt with lymphoma 8 years ago. She's out of the country, but she mentioned to me immunotherapy and this kind of cancer vaccine they had developed, that they take some of your blood, they spin it, they pull the cancer cells out of it. They treat them just like they would a regular vaccine, where they do whatever they do to them and then they re-inject them into your body. And they were finding efficacy with this. So she was able to access this out of the US. Like I said, she lives overseas, because other countries really have a different way of approaching this cancer thing. They have a way different philosophy about it and action when it comes to treatment, which was another reason I was like, I don't know that I think our doctors are doing everything they can, because look at what these countries are doing and they're having these kind of effects, right? So I went online and started looking for a place that did something close to what she talked about, realized that you could not get that vaccine in the US. Don't know why. You would think that people who really want to heal people would let anything happen, right? Let's try all things that other people are finding efficacy with. But we got all this red tape and
because cancer makes so much money. Cancer treatment makes so much money,
Big business. And anytime I know that money is involved,
it's the biggest.
That taints it for me so heavily when I know that there's this money element, and you might be doing more what you're doing for the money than for my benefit. Now I really know I got to be my own advocate, because I'm the only one that really cares if I live. And if you really cared about my health, why aren't you doing it for free? Why aren't you doing the things that you believe work so well and making sure I can get it, even if I can't pay you? To me, there's an ethical problem with the way we handle cancer in this country.
That's for every disease, though.
Totally tied into the finance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But what I learned is that exists an alternative too. Did they treat me for free? No, because nobody does anything for free. We're a capitalistic society.
Right.
We're based on capitalism. If you find an industry it doesn't exist in, let me know. It's in church, it's in health, it's in education, it's in everything, because we're a capitalistic society. That's not, it's not a light bulb moment. We know what our country is based on. We know why they imported slaves from Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it's always been about money.
Right.
And it's still about money. We're not surprised by that. And so I had to get over that idea and get to the idea that, okay, everything is going to have this involved. Even more so, I need to be choosing things that work for me, because either way, I got to pay for it. And so, gratefully, I had people willing to help me go get this alternative, integrative, I should call it more accurately, treatment in Arizona. And that really did come from that morning where I just kind of woke up going, I'm not ready to die. And I've tried this on my own for long enough. And I believe there are effective things in the integrative world that I don't have access to because I'm in California. And I need to go find out what else I can do. And so when I looked up that immunization, I told you about the cancer vaccine, really, and the other things, I found this whole plethora of stuff they were doing in Arizona that included cryoablation, which they inject argon gas, and it's other gases other places, but I had argon gas, and it freezes the entire tumor. And so, as you probably know, cancer is sensitive to temperature, which is why the cryotherapy and cold packs and all these, and heat, I did alternating hot, cold showers for months because
did that hurt?
Cryoablation, I was knocked out. So it didn't hurt. It hurt after, and my breasts swelled up. It was beautiful size, but all for the wrong reasons. I was like, dang, I'd never had that before.
Oh, like just one side though.
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out if they could balance it out. Yeah. But eventually the swelling went down, took about 3 weeks, but I got that done twice. I have since found a place here that does it. It's just not as popular in California, and it's becoming more widely accepted. They're doing it at the Mayo Clinic in Boston or something now too. But this is one of the things I had access to there. That TVEC shot, they put a shot directly into my breast that would locally increase the immune response around the tumor. So we attacked the tumor directly. We supported my body with different therapies that were immunotherapies. We supported killing it through my blood with the microchemo plus the alternative substances. I told you about the methylene blue. Also, I did curcumin, which is basically turmeric, but in an IV. Way more effective in IVs. I was taking lots of turmeric by mouth. You can do it in an IV.
What?
Just not in California.
Oh my gosh. Concentrated liquid form?
It's great for anti-inflammation. What I found subsequently to be even better is this WAB enzyme.
What is that?
It says joint health. The reason it's good for, and a lot of cancer patients use it, I've now found it was very hard to find because a lot of cancer patients buy it. It decreases inflammation. And I can tell you for myself, in the last month, maybe that I've been taking it, my body feels way different in really good ways. And I've taken, I want to say 180 something supplements, like overall this whole time, different supplements at different times, but like collective number of supplements. I've been on 180 different supplements minimum. And this is the one that I can feel having the biggest effect in my body. And my actual breast swelling reduced. It reduces inflammation. And it's been proven to do that.
I still have this lymphedema going on. I noticed today how much, I'm going to show you how my arm is swollen.
Oh, wow. It's really swollen.
Really swollen.
And that's left over from the surgery that then they took lymphs. And so the process through your arm.
Yeah. And then it just does what it wants to. I have a sleeve, but to me, I don't find the sleeve very effective, and it's more uncomfortable. It feels like it makes my hands and fingers swell more than anything.
Circulation.
Exactly. I mean, it'll leave an indentation when I press with my finger, but despite what I use, I've never found anything. So I'm going to have to try the Wobbenzyme.
Wobbenzyme. It's by Garden of Life, which I like.
I love Garden of Life.
Yeah, me too. They have great products. Screenshot that.
I will definitely.
It's hard to find. I recommend you go online and get the 800 count. But well, get a small bottle first. I found it at Whole Foods and Sprouts. It's just always sold out.
Wow. So it's for inflammation.
It's for inflammation. And it's recommended to me by one of the naturopathic doctors I work with because it's so effective.
How many do you take a day? How many can you take?
You can't OD on it.
Right.
Today I took about 40. Yesterday I took about 60. Wow. I take 10 at a time throughout the day.
Does it make you feel sick?
No, no, but you have to take it away from food. And what you really wanted to do is start to chew up that inflammation, which it does. And then when I ran out, I felt crazy for like 4 days. My joints felt, I was like, what is going on? And it was all this inflammation coming back that I hadn't really recognized I was having.
Oh my God.
And when I started taking it again 2 days later, it really is effective for me. Again, we all have to choose and decide what works best for our own bodies, right? But for my body, that stuff really works.
Wow, I'm definitely going to try it. Well, where are you now in the journey? Like, are your tumors still there? Will you ever have surgery to remove them if they're not gone?
Yes, and I'll know soon. So here's the order of those answers. Yeah, if I came to a point where I felt like that's it, surgery is the only way to go. It's the only thing I haven't tried. I need that done. I would do that. This wasn't about, I don't want to lose my breast. This was about, I want to make sure I do everything I can do to maintain the quality of life that I know I want to live, because I'm not someone who believes, I know life is going to end at some point, and I believe we should have the right to determine how we want to do this, right? And so I didn't want to put myself in a position where I didn't want to be here anymore, because of the choices that I didn't want to make to begin with, that I was being pressured into making. I don't make decisions that I'm pressured to make. I won't do that. I'll just stop and not do nothing, because before I make the wrong decision, I will do nothing. To me, that's a safer bet, because I'm not going to be mad at myself, right? I'm not going to do something I really don't believe is the right thing for me because someone else wants me to do it and then be pissed. I'm the only one that has to live with these consequences. Either way it goes.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wanted to make sure that I exhausted all the options I believed existed before I did anything as drastic as the kind of surgery they were telling me I had to do. So yes, if I figured out after all this, and I'm still in the middle of some really amazing processes that I feel like are effective, but the reason I think this way is more difficult is because, like I was saying before, there's no real endpoint. Yeah. I got to work at this for the rest of my life, because I'm not removing the things that are causing the problem. I'm living with them and trying to guide them in the direction I want them to go in. Is it possible? Hell yeah. Is it easy? It is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I had a home birth. And I got to keep doing it, because the alternative isn't better. This is the right way for me. And the right people continue to be brought into my path. And I'm really grateful for everything I've learned and all the people that I've met and been supported by. And really, it was a hard thing for me to share what was going on a year ago. And I did it because I needed other women to know the mistake I made, the biggest mistake I felt like I made in not getting the early detection, so that even though I still would have chosen the same way to handle it, it would have been way easier to have something tiny as opposed to something big, right? That's already on the move. Like early detection is vital. It's so important when it comes to saving your life, right? And when it comes to having more choices, the earlier you find it, the more you have that you can do, because the more things will work because there's less to handle. So the biggest mistake I made was not getting the mammogram and not getting them every year like I should have been once I turned 40. And I probably should have been doing it from 35 because of my mom's history. That was my fault. Absolutely. And that's why I shared it. But you know, what's happened since then is this kind of avalanche of love and goodwill and prayers and support. And I didn't really expect that. You know, I've been a very private person, as public as I've been with my work, with my life. I've been very private on purpose. And this was a big thing to kind of step out and share. I mean, I'd shared a few big things in the past, but I felt like those backfired. So I was like, won't be doing that again. People did not benefit from that as much as I thought they would. Like sharing how I lost my virginity and why I took a leave of absence from having sex. That was back in, 97 or 98 or whatever. I talked about
that one. We'll have to catch up on that later.
Yeah, that one backfired. I don't know if it backfired, but there were certain people in media that I felt like targeted me after that. And we were not in the same environment we are now of Me Too and supporting women when they talk about assault. It went completely left. So I was quiet for a really long time, but I really am grateful for everybody who has just been loving on me. And that's a great benefit, from sharing. I was scared to do it, but now I'm happy I did. A lot of women got their mammograms too. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And your speaking out has helped so many other women, not only share their story, but have the courage to move forward with getting treatment or, look at other alternative treatments. And just not be ashamed to share it.
Yes.
So your treatment is ongoing.
It's ongoing, and it will be ongoing the rest of my life. And I think it should be ongoing for everybody who experiences cancer, though, because you never stop keeping your body in order. Even if you do surgery and do chemo, and you still have to heal yourself from that. You still have to, you still have to continue to take care of yourself. You can't just go back to business as usual.
No,
that's how you got here.
Yeah.
Right. So your life has to change. Cancer, my best friend always says, cancer is an invitation to change.
That is very profound and true.
Very profound and true. And it is. And you don't get to not change because you're relying on conventional. Conventional is not a fix-all.
Yeah.
It does a lot more, a lot faster. But now you're left with the aftermath. You still need to heal and take care of your body and reduce your stress and kick out people who are not good for you and take better care of yourself and love on yourself. You still have to do that.
Yes.
And or you still learning. Battle. Right.
I'm still learning.
Listen, girl, me too. It's a learning path.
Well, let me ask you this too. For anybody, you said it's not necessarily for everyone, but how expensive is it? I mean, are we
it's so expensive I can't even say it out loud. Oh, yeah. The cryoablations alone were about $14,000 each.
Wow.
And that was the least of the cost. That was the lowest cost.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding?
No, it's mind-blowing how much it costs.
So most people can't afford this type of treatment.
I have heard of some insurances that cover it. I know there are some organizations that will help with some costs. I saw that happening for people at the center I was at. But in general, no, you got to figure it out. And that's why I'm so grateful for the angels that stepped in for me, because I couldn't have afforded that on my own. I mean, popular doesn't mean paid. So it wasn't going to happen any other way. And I'm super grateful it did. I mean, I'm, working again now, so that's great. But there was a period of time where I was a stay-at-home mom and did not continue to make an income for myself, and kind of gave all that up to mother my child the way that I wanted to. And I'm grateful I got supported through that too. But when this came up, I don't know what I would have done had I not gotten the help of the people that stepped in for me. So
Wow.
yeah, and it made me really want to focus and commit to creating an organization for women who do want to go this route and can't afford it. Because in the greater scheme of things, it's just money. Yeah. And that's hard to hear when you don't have money, but when you do, it's just money. And the people with money give it away all the time in large amounts. So this is not unsolvable. It's about being strategic and having a passion for it, so that this is where you want to focus your money and time and attention, right? To help women who want to go this route, or people who want to go this route and can't. For me, it would be helping other brown women who want to go this route and can't, because that's me. So charity begins at home. My grandma used to always say that. I would help women like me and then expand from there and help other people who needed it as well.
Wow. So what's next for you in terms of your treatment?
I'm in the middle of a process. It's like can I talk about it yet? It's a new protocol that has shown great efficacy. I'm super excited to start, and I probably start in about 2 weeks. I just can't say more about that, but I can say that it involves so many of the protocols that I've already tried, but all together, and adds 3 really fundamentally important new things that I think are definitely a secret in the sauce. And so, yeah. And right now, currently I'm on an enzyme protocol, which is what the WAB enzyme is a part of. It's an enzyme protocol, and those have been shown to be very effective in kind of chewing up cancer tumors. Also taking this drink every day from one of the naturopaths, who I don't know if he wants me to say his name, so I won't, but there's some really amazing, genius people out there that are finding ways to heal people, or more effectively, more accurately, I should say, finding ways to help people heal themselves, because you're really the one who heals yourself. No one does the work for you. No one takes the pills for you. No one drinks the nasty stuff for you. No one goes in the saunas for you. No one ices your body. Like, no one does the work but you. But you can have people that are amazing at guiding you through the process to a successful end result.
And you don't have to go back out to Arizona for that?
So far, no. Yeah. And my numbers when I left Arizona, the tumor markers and all those things were really, most of them, except for 2, were back in a normal range after everything I'd done. Now, the last PET scan I got, none of the images would show because the machine was still broken, but they didn't realize it. So my doctor did not want me to do PET scans too close together. That radiation is damaging for your body. The radiation is the reason I was avoiding the mammograms to begin with. Good luck with that. PET scans are like 60 times the radiation of a mammogram, and I've had 4.
I talked to you that day somehow.
That backfired. Yeah. I was trying to avoid radiation. So I have to continue to do those to monitor, and then, have to figure out how to get rid of the effects of the radiation. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. But to answer your question, I'm doing those treatments, but I'm also really, really focused on being happy and really enjoying my life. Right. And that's not because I think I'm going to die. I don't believe I'm going to die anytime soon. I could be wrong, but I don't believe that. I believe that everything I'm going to do and am doing is going to work and be effective. And if I'm wrong, I got to live or die with that. But what I mean is that I was really allowing myself to live an existence where I wasn't joyous and happy. And, I've always been a happy person, but I was limited, and I had kind of put a cap on myself, right? And that cap has been removed. And that's not to say I'm buck wild, but I'm absolutely more in the moment. I'm absolutely more grateful. I'm absolutely more loving and forgiving. I'm absolutely more of the kind of person I always wanted to be. And it took something like your life being dangled in front of you to cause me to be very serious about that. And to be very focused on, okay, listen, we're going to be who we want to be from now on. We are not going to be dealing with this, and we are going to be searching out that. You know what I mean? I want love. I want happiness. I want honesty. I want authenticity. And that's all I accept around me now. And I speak my mind. Not that I ever had a problem with that, but more so now because it just reminds you how fragile life is and what a gift it is and how short it is no matter what happens to you. People, God, I was here in my room, in my bed, when Kobe's helicopter went down. I think I actually heard it because I thought there was an accident below. I'm in that area. I thought there was an accident on the street. There was huge crushing metals. I thought trash trucks had crashed. And I was like, it's not even trash day. I didn't find out what actually happened until probably like an hour and a half later. And I was like, that was literally around the time where I heard that. I don't know if that's what it was or not. It makes sense to me that it is based on proximity and the sound. But anyway, he didn't wake up that morning thinking anything but he was going to have a normal day. None of us ever know. None of us ever know. And so I'm grateful to have an opportunity to see death down the line, right? Because it reminds me that it's coming eventually and I better enjoy what I have right now. And I don't know that I would have understood that and gotten that lesson right without this experience. I don't know.
Trust me, I can relate.
And it comes, you look at it in the face and you go, what's up? What we about to do? What we about to do? Death, life, all of this. So yes, that is where I'm at with it now. I am grateful to be back to work because I do not have that help that I had before anymore. And so kind of all on me. But I am super confident. I feel exactly like I felt last year when I posted that video. I'm confident in my God. I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my body. I've watched my body do incredible things. And I know that I'm up for the challenge. I'm a really strong to a fault, like hard-headed, strong person, if you couldn't tell by now. And that serves me in a lot of good ways too, and I can take a lot.
Well, I definitely see your strength and hear it. And I see the joy on your face, Ananda, and I know you're going to make it through. Tell people who would like to get more information about the types of treatments that you had. Do you have any resources that you can share?
You know what? When I got back from Arizona, I had 10,200 or so videos. I've been vlogging this journey from the very beginning. And my idea at the time was to be able to share it exactly for what you just said. People who might want to understand what this journey looks like don't really have this comprehensive of a journey to look at. I've looked for it. Like I've tried to find people who have literally done everything, and there's not many of us. And so my desire is to edit it down into manageable episodes and put it on my app. So I have this app Elixir, but then I got back here and had to continue healing and doing these different treatments. So I really haven't had the time to do all the editing. Like you were just talking about before we got on here about editing, girl, it literally took hours of my day. I almost couldn't do anything else. My eyes would be sore from the light. I mean,
still are. That's why mine are sore right now.
Right. Because do you have blue light glasses? You need blue light glasses.
Yes, I do. They are blue light, but still my eyes are sore.
Those are. Our bodies aren't designed to manage that kind of electrical stimulation and input of blue light. And so I fatigued, I burned out. I was like, I can't edit one more day, but I have so much editing I want to do. I mean, there is a full story to tell here, and I don't know if it'll be a story of, success or what not to do. Who knows? But it's my journey, and it's what I chose and what I stand behind. And I would like to share it so that other women, especially women like us, have yet another idea of what's possible, right? Another idea. And if they want to do it, here's what not to do. Like, here's what I tried that I would never suggest you try, because I have a list of that as well. And I just haven't had the time and the ability to focus. I'm full-time, basically single momming right now. My dad lives with me. There's so much going on. I'm working again. So I'm grateful for all of that. And it means I don't have a whole lot of time to edit that story together.
I definitely understand that. All right. So the app is Elixir.
Elixir, Alixir. Kind of like Elixir, like a health bomb, but with my name thrown into it with the A. So Alixir. I've been working on an ebook because I think that would be a succinct kind of quick way to get it out in terms of the information to women who want to try, a list of things I've done, a list of, all these things. But again, I don't even have an assistant. I mean, it literally is all me. So there's only so much one person can do in a day. And girl, I told you before, I'm in jury duty now. So like even a little bit I was getting done every day between his school and this and that, treatments and taking protocols, the little bit of time I had left completely wiped out because now I've actually been chosen to serve on jury duty. I don't know when that's going to end. So Good luck to me. Good luck to me.
You'll do it. You'll do it.
You can see me in jury duty taking all these pills every couple of hours, though. They're like, I know you have a sign that says you can't have no beverages in here, but honey, I'm taking these pills. You can come kick me off this jury. I don't want to be here anyway. Maybe this is a good way to get out. And I'm gonna get up and go to the bathroom when I need to because I'm on a cleanse. Heck out of here. Jury duty. Are y'all serious right now? And I would, I put it off for probably 2 years. So I said, okay, let me go do my civic duty.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, it was lovely talking to you again. Miss always great to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. You too. And congratulations on your podcast. I love this. I think you've tackled some really great stuff. Trust me, you can relate. And half the time I can. You're right. And the great thing is we really all can relate. Like there's so much that connects us as human beings and as women and as brown women. And if we just focus on those things, the things that we find to separate will just fade away. We just connect on the things where you can relate. It's so important.
It is. It is.
So I'm glad you're doing it. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All righty. Well, I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks again
for having me.
All right.
And thank you to everybody who prayed for me. I'm so grateful for all of it.
You're always in my prayers.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. All right.
See you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.